Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to heat up this anvil that I've been working on, and this will be part 2 of my anvil restoration. We're going to heat this anvil up with my weed burner, blowtorch, whatever you want to call it, and get her up to temperature from what I've been able to garner through YouTube videos and research and what have you. You're supposed to heat it up to around 350 to 400 degrees before you weld on it, so that's what we're going to start doing here. And I've got my trusty little torch all set up here, and I've got the anvil sitting on top of my other anvil, so hopefully the heat doesn't transfer into my stump. I don't believe it will too badly, and so I'm going to start throwing some heat on that thing, and let's see if we can get it up to temperature and throw some welds in this here where I've ground it out. And I'm just going to try the MIG welder for right now and try peening the welds and harden them that way. So let's get this thing fired up and get to it. Okay, well, I've got the anvil heated up to a pretty high heat. I don't want to overheat it, but you know, you heat pans up in the oven to 400 degrees, 350, and I'm just kind of going by touch, and it feels pretty darn hot. So I'm going to go ahead and start throwing some beads in there and peening them, and let's see what happens. So let's do it. I need to grab, oh, I brought it over, I thought I did. You know what, I'm going to try my little welding shield here because I can just see better with this thing for whatever reason. So this is going to be a kind of a slow and tedious process, I can see that. But I believe it's going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and be welding on this for a while, and when we get a bunch done, I'll bring it back and show you the progress. Okay, so here's our progress on this side of our project so far. Seems to be working quite well. Excuse the horrible looking welds, but you know, there's a lot of splatter in that coming off of this. But these little MIG welders, without any argon, they tend to want to splatter quite a bit, and I've tried everything, you know, every setting on the dang thing to figure out how to try to get it to stop splattering like that. But I think we're looking pretty good here. You know, I've about got this side done and ready to be ground off. I think I'll go ahead and weld the other side before I start any grinding, but it's coming right along. Top of this thing will look like a brand new anvil here by the time I get done. So, alright, I'm going to get on with it. Well, here's what we've got so far on this side of the anvil. I was going to go ahead and weld this other side all in, but I wanted to, once I got this welded in, I wanted to grind it out and see what it was looking like, and you know, I think it came out pretty good. It looks pretty straight. Not seeing any cracks or anything like that, so I think I'm pretty happy with it. I've got one little spot like right in here where there's like a little slag hole or something, but otherwise I think it looks pretty good. Okay, well, it's the next day. After all the welding and peening and pounding and grinding and everything I did on the other side of that anvil, it got kind of late yesterday afternoon, and so I called it a day. But back in the shop today, and we're heating up this side of our anvil to get this other side completed. And I've had that torch on there for a while. I've been switching it from side to side because that's a lot of steel to heat up. And you know I've heard on YouTube and various other places where I've garnered a bunch of information about this. You know, pros and cons about working on an anvil like this. You'll ruin the temper. You'll, you know, but you have to get some pretty good heat in that thing to ruin the temper. I mean, you have to figure when you're using an anvil and you pull a 2,000 degree piece of steel out of the forge and lay it on top of it, that doesn't ruin the temper. And I mean, after you know, so long of a time of working on a piece of steel, you know, your temper is still fine. And we're not heating this anvil up to 2,000 degrees by any means. We're only heating it up to a couple of hundred degrees so that the welds take really well and they don't cool off too fast. That's the main reason for heating up the anvil, is one, the welds it'll weld better if it's heated up, and two, when you lay a bead on there, I mean, you could weld it cold. You know, you could weld this anvil with the steel cold. Problem is, you risk the welds cracking in that because the anvil sucks the heat out of the weld so fast, because that's a lot of iron and it's very cold. And when you lay your welds in there, that anvil acts as a heat sink, and it'll pull all the heat right out of your welds, and they can crack, and you know, you're back to square one. So I don't heat the surface, the face of the anvil directly, because that's where my hardened plate is. So I'm not heating that directly. It does draw some heat, but we're only talking a couple of 100 degrees here. That's not enough to ruin the heat treat on that hardened surface. So, but it is enough to make your welds stick better and hold and not crack. And so anyway, I know a lot of people say you shouldn't do this, but what, you know, when you have a surface that's, I look at it like this: when I got this anvil, the sides were so chipped up and cracked up that I really didn't have a straight, square surface anywhere on the anvil. Even the places that weren't chipped off were so beveled over in that I really didn't have a decent surface to work on. So what's it going to hurt? I look at it like that. I mean, I had an unusable anvil to start with. So by getting this all done, will it be perfect? Will it be as good as new? Probably not. But it will be a good usable anvil. It's not like I'm, you know, pounding out locomotive parts or something on this thing. I make knives and tongs, and you know, I use it for fairly small items that I'm working on. So I think it's going to be just fine. And like I said earlier, maybe, you know, the sides will bevel down a little bit again, because after all, you know, you can see where I had to grind away part of that hardened surface because it was so chipped and cracked away, you know, that it was just, it's just the way it is. I mean, so part of this, the surface of these edges is going to be weld instead of hardened faceplate. But by peening the welds as I go and having my anvil heated up, and when you work steel, once I start to pound on this anvil and use it to make blades and, you know, bottle openers and tongs and whatever, as you pound on that, where it was welded, it will harden up somewhat just from work hardening, from being pounded on. So, and I dropped my hammer on the other side yesterday where I welded it, and you know, it's got pretty good rebound where it was welded. So I'm not real concerned about it. As far as its value, maybe as being an antique, I have no idea how old this anvil is. And again, even if it is an antique, that doesn't mean it can't be restored back to its former glory, you know. And like I say, it's never going to be like a brand new anvil, you know, but it's going to make me a good usable anvil for my shop. Anvils are very hard to come by. Ever since that show came out, Forged in Fire, people have been snapping up anvils. I mean, you can look on eBay for an anvil, and where an anvil used to sell for maybe $1, $2 a pound for scrap price, if you found one at some farm somewhere or something, nowadays you can look on eBay. Some anvils are selling up to upwards of $10 a pound because so many people are interested in getting into blacksmithing and that because of that show. So hey, I'm just tickled pink to have this anvil. I don't care if it's an antique. I don't think it is. I'm sure this anvil was made probably in the earlier part of the 1900s. Not early, you know. I don't think it was way early. This anvil was probably made in the 30s or 40s, is my guess. Again, I'm no anvil expert. I have no real idea, but you know, anvils have stayed the same for so many years. I mean, the general look of them, that until somebody online or some expert somewhere sees a picture of my anvil and can tell me what it is, there's no name on it anywhere. So you can't say, well, that's a Peter Wright, or that's a Trenton, or it's a Hay Button. I have no idea what it is. It could be an Ajax. you know, an Acme. I mean, I just don't know. I have no clue, and I have absolutely no idea of its age. I'm guessing, you know, that it's been around a while because, you know, just from the use, from the abuse, and all the chipping, and you know, it's a pretty old anvil. But as far as all that rigmarole goes about, oh, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't, you know what? I need an anvil, and that piece of garbage that I got from Harbor Freight has absolutely no rebound. I can't pound bevels into anything because it won't. It absorbs every hammer blow. I mean, it's so hard to work with. I'm amazed that I've been able to do the things I've been able to do with that piece of junk. So, I mean, you know, for little things here and there, I won't throw it away or anything. I mean, it's usable for certain things, but it's not a proper anvil. This anvil that I'm working on is. So, so anyway, we'll get this heated up and that, and I'll get back when we get to doing some welding and peening and actually working on the anvil. Okay, so we've got our welding all done on our anvil here. Let's take a look at it. Got that big chipped up mess there all filled in. I took and put just a couple of little spot welds here and there in the top. It had some bad holes in it from chisel marks and stuff that, you know, rather than try to grind the whole top down, I just decided I would go ahead and fill that in. Just, you know, it's just a little spot weld that'll grind out and you'll never even know it was there. This front here was beveled off really bad, so I ran a bead across there. The back part here was the same. It was beveled off real bad, so I ran a bead on that. And these edges here, even though they weren't chipped out, they were beveled off right here and right up here, so I ran a bead along there, and we got her all filled in and ready to go. So, and then the sides of the horn here, they had some kind of big gouge in them, so both sides, I don't know how that happened or why, but they were both in fairly bad shape on that, almost in the same spot on each side of the horn, so I put some weld in there. And now we're going to start grinding it up and cleaning it up, and we should have a pretty nice looking anvil when I get done with it. I think we're done with our anvil. A lot of work, a lot of welding and peening and grinding and welding and peening and more welding and more peening and more grinding. I feel like my hands are about ready to give out on me, but I think it was well worth it. You ready to see it? Let's check this out. I think she came out pretty good. That'll give me a good usable anvil for quite some time. It's far from perfect, but it was never going to be perfect. But it was unusable the way that it was, and so it took quite a bit of elbow grease to get this old dude back on its feet and ready to be used. And I'm pretty proud of it. I think it came out pretty good. I've never repaired an anvil before. I guess there's a first time for everything. But, you know, a lot of the nicks and gouges are gone. I put a few spot welds here and there in the faceplate here where people had gouged it with a chisel and that. I mean, that was just ridiculous. But there she is. I think we can call this project done. So, as always, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate you joining me in the shop today. Well, and yesterday, because we started on this little project yesterday. But always good to have you here with me. You never know what we're going to tackle in this shop. So next step is to get that old blue boat anchor off of my stump and get this bad boy mounted up and ready to use. So my next forging project, I'll have a decent anvil to use. And if you kind of look at my shop, to say it's a mess would probably be an understatement. So you know, I do one or two projects in here, and then and we got slag, you know, forged slag and grinder dust and garbage everywhere in here, and the bench is covered with drill shavings and spirals and sawdust, and I got tools laying around and all of that. And my toolbox has got so much dirt on it we could probably plant potatoes on that thing. This poor bench here, I wish I could do something better with it, but I can't. This is just kind of a storage area that I use because I don't have any cabinets in here. But I've got quite a bit of wall space up there. I'm thinking on getting me some cabinets, and I'll put some up here. And I'm going to get rid of this old bench. I mean, it's just a wobbly old bench. I'm surprised it hasn't fallen over yet. That's basically just firewood. So, but yeah, I get a lot of garbage laying around in here. When I get to doing a project, I don't stop and clean up after myself. I just work until it's done. So we made a pair of tongs. We refurbished my new old anvil and a few other things here and there. So it's time to clean the shop. We'll get that mounted up. So stay tuned and be watching for more exciting projects in D West Forge. So thanks again for watching, guys. Hit that subscribe button. You'll get to see when I post a new video. Hit the like button. That helps me out. And click on that little bell. That'll let you know when I've uploaded a new video. So thanks again. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time in the shop.